Hello, I'm Tom Wilkinson, and welcome to the Thinking in English podcast, a podcast aimed at intermediate to advanced level English learners. Thinking in a foreign language is a vital step on the road to fluency, and this podcast aims to help you achieve this by discussing various topics, ranging from current events to science, philosophy, economics, and much more. All transcripts of the podcast are now available on the Thinking in English blog. The vocabulary lists, comprehension questions, and articles are there for you to read. The link is in the description, so please check it out. On today's episode, we will discuss the recent news that a court in Ireland has decided Subway's bread is not bread, as well as looking at some of the implications of this decision. Here is today's vocabulary list. Please remember the written list is available in the description of the podcast and also on our blog, Thinking in English. Link also in the description. To scan. To scan. To look through a text quickly in order to find a piece of information that you want, or to get the general idea of what that text contains. For example, scan the newspaper article quickly and make a note of the main points. Intriguing. Intriguing. Very interesting because of being unusual or mysterious. For example, she has a very intriguing personality. Customizable. Customizable. This word is used to describe something that you can change according to a customer or user's particular needs. For example, we offer customizable ringtones for your phone. Accustomed. Accustomed. This means familiar with something. For example, she quickly became accustomed to his messy ways. Savoury. Savoury. Savoury food is salty or spicy and not sweet in taste. For example, pie can be sweet or savoury. To rule. To rule. This means to decide officially, especially a government or a court. For example, the government has ruled that refugees must be deported. Provision. Provision. A statement within an agreement or a law that a particular thing must happen or be done. For example, we have inserted certain provisions into the treaty to safeguard foreign workers. And finally, common sense. Common sense. This means good sense and sound judgment in practical matters. For example, windsurfing is perfectly safe as long as you have or use some common sense. Last week, as I was scanning through the Guardian newspaper during my break from work, an intriguing headline stood out to me. Subway bread is not bread. Well, if it's not bread, what is it? Subway, one of the biggest fast food restaurants in the entire world. It has over 40,000 restaurants in 100 countries, more than McDonald's, KFC, or any other competitors, and is famous for selling submarine sandwiches, or subs. Although it has probably been over a year since I last stepped foot into a Subway, I was certainly a regular customer back in my days as a student. The fully customizable menu allows you to choose whatever salad, sauce, filling, and bread you desire. Yet, is this bread actually bread? According to the Supreme Court of Ireland, no, Subway bread is not bread. But why is the Irish court deciding a case on bread? Surely they have more important things to do. And why is Subway bread not bread? If you asked me, it looks, smells, tastes, and is even made like bread. So what is going on here? Well, let's start with why Subway bread is not bread. The reason is simple. Sugar. Subway bread contains close to 10% sugar, which is 5 times the legal limit for bread sold in Ireland. This might surprise some of you listening. After living in Asia for almost 3 out of the last 5 years, I have also become accustomed to sweet bread. As a Taiwanese student of mine said to me the other day, maybe all bread in Taiwan would not be considered bread in Ireland. But in Europe, bread is normally a savoury food, not sweet, and is considered part of our diets, a basic part of our diets, in fact. So this brings us to why a court in Ireland is ruling on this issue. And not just any court, the Supreme Court, or in other words, the most important and powerful court in the whole of Ireland. There is a famous saying in English, which I think originally comes from the American founding father, Benjamin Franklin, that in this world, nothing can be said to be certain except death and taxes. And this court case was, of course, a result of taxes. In Ireland, staple foods are exempt from a tax known as value-added tax. A staple food, food staple, or simply a staple, is a food that is eaten routinely and in such quantities that it is a large amount of a standard diet. However, Ireland's Value-Added Tax Act of 1972 distinguishes between staple foods, things like bread, tea, coffee, cocoa, milk, and preparations or extracts of meat and eggs, and more discretionary indulgences, such as chocolate, pastries, crisps, cakes, nuts. Simply put, in Ireland, essential products are not taxed, while non-essential products are taxed. Importantly, however, this law also contains a strict provision that the amount of sugar in bread shall not exceed 2% of the weight of flour included in the dough. And at 10%, the amount of sugar in Subway bread is clearly way above the tax-free limit. Actually, this is not the first time Subway bread has been in the news in recent years. You might remember the yoga mat chemical scandal. Subway used, and still uses in some places, a chemical known as azodicarbonamide, sorry, my pronunciation is probably very wrong, in its bread to make the flour white. However, this ingredient is also commonly used in the manufacture of yoga mats and carpet underlay, and has been banned by the European Union and Australia from use in its food products. Moreover, this isn't the first time food and tax have become a legal problem. If any of you have spent time in the UK, you might have heard of a Jaffa cake. For those of you who have not, a Jaffa cake is a chocolate orange flavoured biscuit, cake, cookie kind of thing. UK tax law distinguishes between biscuits and cakes, with the Jaffa cake hovering along the borderline. And after a court case, ultimately Jaffa cakes were classed as cakes for tax purposes. So here is today's final thought. If Subway bread is not bread, what is it? Is it cake or a pastry, or something new. Furthermore, let's think about what a sandwich is. The dictionary defines a sandwich as a food typically consisting of vegetables, sliced cheese or meat, placed on or between slices of bread, and more generally, any dish wherein bread serves as the container or wrapper for another food type. This is a little confusing, obviously, but the key word here is bread. So if Subway bread is not actually bread, then does this mean that the world's most famous sandwich shop does not sell sandwiches? And do the ingredients matter the most? There are thousands of different types of bread made using different ingredients and different processes all around the world. Does adding extra sugar really change the product? I would argue, no, it doesn't. Subway bread is bread. And I think even the judges in Ireland would agree with me, because there is a difference between common sense definitions or legal or tax-based definitions. While Subway might have to pay tax, I would still consider it to be bread. What about you? What do you think? So here are today's comprehension questions. Remember, you can find the answers in the description below or on our blog, Thinking in English. What percentage of Subway bread is sugar? What country's Supreme Court ruled on this decision? What does VAT mean? Thank you for listening to today's episode of Thinking in English. Share with your friends, check out our social media links in the description, and send us a message. Also, make sure to check out our blog, Thinking in English, link also in the description. You can find all of the transcripts, the reading lists, the vocabulary list, the comprehension questions, and also find our contact details there as well. We appreciate all of your feedback. If you have any ideas for topics, future podcast guests, or other learning formats, please let us know. And please leave us a rating. So thank you, and see you next time.